Hello, welcome to Ask, Don't Tell, the show where we teach you how to sell or influence or get people to say yes in life or yourself a yes in life without being a jerk, without pressuring, without having to pitch. Because the best salespeople or the best business owners or the best, people that do what they do, they don't have to talk, they listen. And my guest today is Dr. Thomas Trautmann. I hope I got that right, and we'll give him a chance in a second
Perfect.
to say it. He's a leading expert in neuromarketing and the brain science behind decision making. And so, if you've ever wondered why people say yes, or what makes them trust the salesperson, or how to communicate better with yourself and others, today's episode is for you. So, I'm going to give uh, Thomas a chance to give us a brief introduction on his work and what happybrains.com is.
Yeah, thank you, Oscar. Thank you for having me on the show. Hello to everyone from the southeast of France, because we talked about it, right? So yes, my work is about, generating ethical persuasion. I created a system called the Ethical Persuader using a little wordplay here, because in English slang in the UK, a persuader is a gun I put on your head so that I get you to do what I want. And that's persuasion, that's influence, that's manipulation, you call it as you want. So I create the ethical persuader because the whole idea is based on the science coming from neuromarketing, but neuromarketing is mostly focused on the results of the company and is lacking a little bit of humanity. So I have been a certified neuromarketing instructor. I did it for half a dozen years or so, and the lack of humanity was nagging me. So that's why I create the Ethical Persuader. And in fact, what I do, I I teach, I coach business owners, CXOs, entrepreneurs uh, to uh, to do ethical persuasion, meaning that they get the decisions they want from the people, while those same people make the decision they need because we target the decision maker in the brain.
I love that. I love that, Thomas, because we at Ask Don't Tell, I'm always saying that you don't have to, people don't like to be told what to do. You don't have to push them, you don't have to twist their arm. This doesn't work. And ultimately, with the Ask Don't Tell, you're actually talking about human skills, right? I mean, ethical is human skills.
Yeah,
And when we use our human
yeah.
skills of empathy and listening and understanding, we're actually able to persuade more than trying to persuade. So I love the way this show is going to go. So here's a question for you. Um, I want to dive deep into how understanding how the brain can help not just salespeople, but people in general, whether they're influencing themselves or they're influencing others, how understanding the brain can help people ask better questions or help themselves ask better questions, how the brain works in in uncovering the real objection that's maybe keeping us from doing something or from the other side taking an action, um, and the science a little bit behind no, like why do we get no? And I think you're going to do amazing as we unpackage these things. So here's my first question to you. And let's we're gonna. I know that in your what you teach is sometimes business related, salespeople related, but I also know that it goes into the personal. So we can
Yes.
touch both areas, right? My first question is really around sales and salespeople and business people, but we can take it into the personal relationships as well. So I guess my first question is, why do most salespeople or people in general fail at getting yes? Now, that could be sales, that could be from your wife, that could be from your kids, that could be from anyone. Why do they fail at getting yes? And how does what you do, which I think is called neuromarketing, help us rethink the process or the sales process, or how do we get people to say yes?
Yeah. Well, people don't get a yes, or they get a yes just so that they go away,
Right.
because I would say 97% of people are still convinced that we make decisions rationally. And as such, if I want to persuade you, I have to come with rational arguments, When in fact, and it has been scientifically demonstrated, there isn't a guy who got a Nobel Prize for his research. He's called Daniel Kahneman. He got his Nobel Prize in 2011. And he admitted that he was wrong for 60 years when he had the results of his research. The part of the brain that makes our decisions is called the primal brain. So everyone is persuaded that we make a rational decision and we act upon it, when in fact we make a primal decision that we rationalize afterwards. So as long as you are going rational, you are going to burn your resources, You are going to try to give longer trial periods. You may give rebates. You may give blah, blah, blah. And you're getting so boring on the brain in front of you that brain may say, okay, sell me your crap and just leave me alone, Get away. So you will do a one-shot deal when in fact the whole idea is that you should focus on the little voice in their brain that says, make me great. Focus on me. Make me great. Don't try to sell me your crap, but make me great. And that's all by targeting the decision maker in the brain. Because when you make me great, me, your client, you elevate me, which elevates your success. Because it will generate a very different relationship, and your chances to sell, which as long as you stay rational are 5%, will move up to 70%. And I don't know you, but I'm a super lazy guy. I prefer 70% than 5%. So and that decision maker is human.
So that's really, so I'm going to package that for a second, because, some of the people listening here may be thinking, well, there's always people that say, well, this is too scientific. This is study. This is neuroscience. This is neuromarketing. And I want to help that for a second, because, I've actually said that in my book, that what I'm teaching you is not necessarily coming from a doctor or a neuroscience, but we're saying the same thing. Because what I always teach is that people make decisions in their heart and not necessarily from the very first thing that comes to mind. What you're going to get many times, and I may be wrong, so we can discuss this, but many times what people give you is a surface level excuse, like, I got to ask my wife, I got to ask the board.
Yeah.
Let me think about it. These are things that our brain, what you were saying, is trained to say and do. And that is not really what we're wanting to do. It is just what our brain automatically thinks. And when you come with a rational, like you said, when you come with the rational, well, you have to do this, or if I give you this, or if I lower the price, that doesn't help us make a decision. It actually makes it worse. So I love what you're saying, because it's backing up what I'm teaching with real science. And here you have it. For those that are listening, we're saying the same thing. We're just saying it from a different perspective. And I love it. I love it.
I think the advantage of having the science is that now we understand how it works. I told you I'm a German. I'm living in France. I'm a super basic guy. So psychology is not for me. I tried once to go visit a shrink, I think he wanted to kill himself. But so no, it's just go back to basics. How does the machine work, and how do you get that machine to work better? And the fact that the part of the brain making the decisions is primal, it means it's our survival tool. And as such, it's paying attention to one and only one person on earth, itself.
Yep. So when it
always says, make me great,
Yeah. So when someone says, I got to talk to my wife, it's a survival mode. It's a survival skill.
It's a sort of way. Yeah. In fact, it's a protection mechanism, because in fact, when you want that person to make the decision you want, you have to trigger what is called a subconscious frustration. And that's a human thing. So if I'm selling, I love that example. If I'm selling a CRM, a complex software to a chief information officer, for example, the traditional way to do that would be you can manage 10,000 contacts. Each contact can have 10 pieces of data,
Right.
you know, and you can have 5 employees that will log at the same time, and you get statistics and blah, 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 blah. Well, in fact, the subconscious frustration of that guy as a human being is not managing a software. It's not divorcing. It's maybe having more time with his kids because at the moment he spends every evening at work to handle all those data. He is close to divorce because he's never home. He fucked up a few weekends and so on. So what you have to say is that what if you could be home every evening at 5? What if you
Right.
could spend every weekend with your family? That's possible because you are now going to ta-la-la-la.
Yep.
It has nothing to do. If you go rational, the brain will say, stop, you are currently boring me. I don't want to make the decision. And exactly as you said, it will pick and choose one of the excuses, you know, talk to my wife, talk to the board, no time, no budget, whatever.
So yeah. So what you're talking about there is exact those same excuses that salespeople or business development people. I mean, you've gotten these before. Every single one of us has gotten this. Let me talk to the board.
Yeah,
We'll
of
get
course.
back to you. We'll call you back. Send us a present. But what they're really telling you is that, and many of the people listening to here are talking in features. And what Thomas is saying is features aren't going to help move the funnel. It's talking in what motivates the other side. What really they value. And I always say, if something is not of value to the other side, it might be a value to us, to you, but if it's
Yeah,
not of
yeah, yeah,
value to them, and what's the real motivator for them to make that decision, you're not going to get anywhere. It doesn't matter what price you give them or
yeah,
how much you throw away the profits. And the other thing you're talking about, what I love is, you're really talking about, in order to do this, you have to understand that it's going back to the human skills. Like you said, how does the machine work? I'm not a doctor, but I know how human beings think and work in the real world because I've been in sales for 30 years. So at the end of the day, you understand that by using your human skills and connecting with the other side, which is what Thomas is saying, he understands the science behind it. It's life changing, it's game changing, and it gets us past the nose. All right, so let's unpackage that
yeah.
for a second.
And once you get the understanding of how the machine works, you can create simple tools. Because I'm not teaching people brain science because it's useless for them. I mean, I'm not a brain scientist either. I'm just understanding the whole thing. I have a PhD in artificial intelligence, so the brain is something I like. But during my workshops, my coaching, we use tools that you can use every day. That's the most important part, you know? It's not
So
just big blah, blah, blah.
I would imagine that a lot of what you teach is not based on talking, it's based on asking questions and listening. So, because that's the only way that you can really uncover what's on the other side. So, for example, how does asking the right questions, or what's some of the questions that you love or that you teach in your coaching that helps trigger that decision making part of the brain differently than, hey, you need to buy this, or let me show you about these benefits? What are some of the
Yeah.
your favorite questions to ask?
My top favorite question, it scares every salesperson on earth, you know, because they don't dare to ask that question, but it's what stops you from sleeping at night?
I love what
Yeah,
stops you from sleeping. Absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely. Hey,
yeah.
hey, yeah,
I, I mean,
absolutely.
I've done a lot of workshops. Each time I say that, I can see on the face of salespeople or marketing people or business owners, shit, I will never say that, you know. But the first funny is when you ask the question, you always get, no, nothing, no, it's okay. Well, with the current economy, of course, and blah, blah, blah. And they start and they talk and they talk. And you just help them talking, you know. You don't ask the typical sales or marketing question, which is driving the answer you want. You know, I use that example. Do you prefer a blue pencil or red pencil? Well, they are nice. They will answer. I prefer a blue one. In fact, that's not the question. Is if you ask them what stops you from sleeping, is with all the pressure, the tension, and so on, I would like to paint. So,
So
now you've learned that in fact they need a paintbrush and not a pencil. but you have
Right.
opened the conversation. You haven't limited it and stopped it to your usual rational sales and marketing stuff.
Right. I love that question. And I'm gonna make it even more powerful here because I love that question. So one thing is there's a lot of salespeople that would you would teach them that and say, I'm not gonna ask that because if I ask that, well, they're gonna, I don't know, they're scared to ask that question. But I always say, Thomas, the questions that you're afraid to ask are the ones that are gonna move the process faster. The questions that you're afraid
Absolutely.
to are the ones that are going to make you literally the most money in business and in life. And
Yeah.
so, that's no different than, for example, and it's a very powerful question, but a question like, well, what's your biggest challenge, or a question around that area. But let's talk about that one for a second. What keeps you from sleeping at night? Now, when you ask that question, you might get the excuse, which you said, which is the surface level. Well, I sleep perfectly. But a true rock star like Thomas won't just take that. He knows that all of us lose sleep at night about something. So taking it a little bit further and saying, okay, so what I'm listening or what I'm hearing from you is that nothing ever keeps you out at night. Is that what I'm hearing? Is that correct? And here's the thing, now they have to lie to you. And they're not going to lie to you. They're going to say, well,
No.
actually, they're going to look to the right. They're going to look to the right and they're going to say, well, actually, there is one thing that keeps me up at night. And now they're speaking from the machine, right? Not from here,
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
the machine. I
And,
love
and
this.
you still have to be very to listen a lot. I'm teaching something that I call silent listening. Everyone tells to salespeople you should listen, but that's one step. But when you listen, most of us, oh, I have to talk about that. He's just said that, so now I need to think about what I'm going to tell her or him, and you no more listen. Silent listening is really about up there, silence. Listen to what the person
Yes,
says. Don't think
yes,
about what you want to say. And in fact, when you ask the question, what keeps you awake at night? Just shut up.
yep,
And
yep,
that too is very difficult for most people because they don't know that, in fact, silence shows that you have control of the situation. And you can stay silent for 4 to 5 seconds, but real seconds. I invite your listeners to look at their watch and look at 4 seconds. And it's damn long. When you're in a conversation with someone, you mostly think, I'm looking like an idiot right now. But no, you ask the question. Let the little bicycle up there, the little
yep.
wheels turn and let them come out with something. And if it's really, really getting long, then as you said, Oscar, you can push a little bit the machine. But yeah. And the fact
I'm,
is that the decision maker is in the subconscious part of the brain. So they will talk more with their physiological signals, facial expressions, and so on, than with their words. But you have to pay attention to everything. It sounds complex, but once you start understanding how it works, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Well, Thomas, I'm gonna dig deeper into that because it's not complex. It's just something that's different than what most people have been trained to do their whole lives, and so it's a learned behavior to be able to do exactly what you're saying. For example, one of the things that we teach is absolutely ask, ask, don't tell. So an ask, don't tell, you have to listen. And for example, when you're a lot of times I'll be on these podcasts and it's actually very difficult because of course you're I have to listen to what you're saying, but yes, I'm formulating obviously some responses. But in the true world of sales, you're not in a podcast. In the true world of
No,
sales, you should be so in the discovery phase, when you really want to learn about your client, and I've talked about this in the other podcasts, when you're in the discovery phase and want to learn about your client, dig deep, ask those deep third level questions of why they need help, why your solution, why help, why today, question. And you're going to agree with this, Thomas. It should be 80% of them talking, maybe
oh yeah.
90%. You 10% listen, you 10% speaking, and the rest of the time you're really just saying, well, tell me more about that, and what did you mean by that, and how does that make you feel, and I mean, these are the true assets of a great psychiatrist or psychologist, right? And how does that challenge you? And tell me a little bit more if you don't do that, how, and you're just digging and digging. And so what you're describing, Thomas, is game changing, life changing for sales and business. You've got the science behind it. And if you can help people do that better, their life will change. So I love what you're saying.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep
And
moving
I
forward.
will give you an example
Give me an
for
example.
I am coaching a group of people, a company for 3 months now. And finally, one of the sales guys put his cojones on the table and tried to use those techniques really. And he said, Thomas, it was amazing. I went to those clients. I'm trying for a long time. In fact, as you said, Oscar, I asked a few questions and I listened. And at the end, I didn't say anything. And at the end, they told me, you know what? We are going to work with you because you care. You pay attention to us.
Yes.
Boom,
Yes.
done. But it
Yes.
took him 3 months to get there. You know, it's
Thomas,
not your fault, guys. You have been trained that way. You have to make that 180-degree switch that people like Oscar and myself try to get in your minds. So
right.
yeah, that life gets easier for you, in fact.
And here's what people don't realize, that selling without selling is actually way easier than selling, because it's very easy to
Yeah,
ask questions, to show your human skills of caring, empathy, listening, connect with the other person, is so much easier than pitching, talking, powering through slides, presentations. Thomas, what you're saying is, again, it is 100% something that is a behavior that you can coach, that you can teach. And when people do it, you said it yourself, people will start telling you, this is different. I thought you were going to sell to me, but you didn't. So I want to do business with you.
yeah,
So you kind of cared about what I have to say, or you care about us. So we want to work with you. And here's the thing. You didn't say anything. I love it. I love that example. It was such a good example. All right. So let's get to the excuses, the objections, the isolating, the things that, the excuses, and I call it the real objection, right? How do we get past those excuses and objections and get to yes? So I teach people. So I'm going to want to know how you teach people, but I teach people really to just kind of isolate excuses. I have a technique which asks questions like, Thomas, besides the fact that you're currently in France enjoying the beautiful sunset, and you can't come to the United States at this. Is there any other reason besides you enjoying the sunset that you couldn't get on a plane to come see me? So what I do is I isolate the
yeah, yeah,
excuse, and then I say, and then I ask, is there any other reason, so that they give me the real reason for them not moving forward. So you might say, well, the real reason is I don't want to go to the United States right now. Right? So that might be your real reason, and then I can address that and deal with it. So what I'm trying to find is your true objection. What's your actual concern, so that I can find something to grab onto, so that I can give you a better path. So here's my
hmm,
question. What is your technique, or how do you coach people? Uh, what are those triggers that make that you help people get past the excuses and really understand why someone is saying no, or what's going to take for them to say yes? Tell us a little about your coaching in that aspect of overcoming objections and
yeah.
excuses.
Well, if people implement my techniques properly, you may not face any objection, or it will be just to let the rationalization process start. Because in fact, as I told you, the decision starts in the primal brain, and then we need to rationalize it. So we know that the human brain makes a decision, one that it can rationalize in 11 seconds. In fact, per day, the human brain makes around 35,000 decisions. Most of them you don't even know they are existing, that your brain is making it, okay? But we want them to make the part of the decisions that they are conscious making. So if you trigger what drives a decision, which is called a subconscious frustration, which is, as I tell you, something human, like my reputation is important. I need to spend time with my kids. I need to feel better. I need to be the focal point of interest during the next party. Stuff like that, that they will never tell you, excuse me, that they will never voice out. But if you target those subconscious frustration, you have the tools that allow you to go further. And when there is an objection, you know that either you are not triggering the right subconscious frustration, so you use the next one, and then you know that it's just the need for the rationalization process to go on, but the decision has been made. That's super interesting. It gives you so much power, and it's very easy to use some techniques that I teach that allow you to go through that instead of rephrasing and diving deeper, because they will give you rational arguments, rational explanations about why they don't want it.
Okay. So I'm gonna go deeper into this. Um, so first I'm gonna parallel this a little bit, and then I'm gonna ask you another question that's going to be more direct into kind of your business, because I want to know how you would handle it. So kind of what I heard here is a little bit, I mean, it's very similar actually to what I teach at Ask Don't Tell, but we're kind of saying the same. So what I'm hearing from you is that if I kind of asked the right questions and uncovered early on in the process, that's what I heard, and I uncover early on in the process what the true motivations or the objections might be, or what's really important to them, and I address those early in the process. In a perfect world, I shouldn't really have a whole lot of objections at the end. I'm just trying to apply it a little bit to our
Yeah.
listeners. Is that correct? Did I translate that properly?
Yeah, if you do your job properly, you have persuaded that brain that you are the only one able to remove those subconscious frustrations.
Okay. And you can
So
teach that.
then the
That's exactly
objections
what you
are,
teach.
yeah, exactly. And then, as I said, the rationalization process will be there. It's the brain needs it, okay? And it can be long, it can be painful. I mean, I'm helping clients worldwide, and in Europe, it's very interesting because every country has a different culture. We Germans, we need to prove that we have a very rational thinking, so we need data. So I know I've persuaded my client, okay, I know we are going to work together, but I know that it will last 3, 4, 6 months, 1 year to send them data, to send them proofs, to send them testimonials, because the German brain is like that. The French will always explain to you that they know it better, and then after a while they will, okay, it's okay, they will do it. UK is more like the US. The decision is made, we move forward, period. So it's very fun.
Okay.
But
Okay.
when you do it well, when you trigger that subconscious frustration, you have made so much way ahead of others. That's super important. And one thing, to come back to the objections, is that I don't know how the guy measured that, but it has been scientifically proven that when the brain makes a decision, it costs. Okay, if I buy your product, your service, let's say for $1,000, it has been demonstrated that the primal brain, the one that makes a decision, needs to get the feeling that it gained 2.3 times more. So you are selling me something for $1,000 on the spot. I should get the feeling, the primal brain, that I'm gaining at least $2,300.
Okay.
But
All
as
right.
subconscious frustrations are superhuman, if, for example, you are selling me for something for $1,000, but I get to spend more time with my children, or my reputation is going to grow, that of course is way higher than 2.3 times the cost of your product. So you have to
Okay.
prove that to the brain.
So you're planting the seeds. You have to plant the seeds early in the process. So this is very different than, for example, what most people have been trained to do. And most people, when they sell, and a lot of salespeople out there, empirical salespeople, they're just trained themselves to sell by trial and error. And what most people do is they either talk about themselves or they talk about their product. So it's all about the why me, or the why my company, or the why these
Yes,
benefits, or why these features. And
yes,
and so, in actually in my first book, Closing Intelligence, I this is very similar, because I took people through what I call the four whys, which is really that people will not make a decision unless they understand that, how you can help them, how your solution impacts them, and then why you are that company. But no one really cares about you or your company if they don't think they need help, or
Absolutely.
that you can't help them, and or that your solution is the right, because there's different solutions to solve the same problem. And so really late in the process comes the why me, the why my company. Because what you just described is, if I plan it early enough with those seeds of the motivations, really it doesn't matter your company. It just matters that you can help them, and then they want your help.
Yes.
Is that yes, that's
Yeah.
kind of what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, love it.
If you are the one, if you are the one showing that primal brain that you know what subconscious frustrations are there, that brain is going to love you because you're the only one doing that. Everyone comes, as you say, with features, la la la, and you come as a human being, understanding another human being, and being the only one able to remove that subconscious frustration, which makes it ethical, by the way. That's where you help them.
All right, this is a game changing strategy. I love it. I know this is going to be a great show because I love what you're teaching. You teach it in a scientific. I mean, to me, you're preaching to the choir, because I breathe this stuff. Like, this is what I teach, but
Yeah, yeah,
I don't teach it from a scientific aspect. I just teach it from a, hey, this is how humans think, and just trust me on it, right? But you come from a scientific, doctor way of approaching it, and you put the science to work with the human skills, and it's like, that's a greater superpower. So that's a great game changing skill. So I want you to, if you had just one piece of advice to salespeople or to people out there, who want to use your strategies, uh, but they might still be thinking, because this is the word manipulation is so improperly used. I think manipulation
yeah.
is using what you've got around you and the person around you to shift and mold, to help them do things that they want to do, not that you want them to do, that they want to do. Like, you're just helping someone take a step in their life that they're asking you to take. And manipulation sometimes is construed as, I'm forcing you to do something. So what would you say to
Yes,
those
very
people
often.
that they come from the background of, oh, neuromarketing, or anything neuro is manipulation? Um, what's one piece of advice that you would give them that helps them use what you teach without feeling like they're going to be manipulating or pressuring the other side?
Yeah, yeah. The very first thing you should do, and it may sound super simple and easy, is to use something that I call the you language. When you write an email, when you have a phone call, whatever you do, you are not authorized to talk about yourself. So, dear Oscar, I'm writing to you to send you this brochure from my company. No. Dear Oscar, you are receiving here information that is going to help you to better understand how you could la la la. You. Use the you language. The problem is that you are also a super self centered machine and you want to talk about yourself because you auto persuade yourself that you're working for the right company with the right products, with the right brand, etc. So that's exactly what you said. People think they need to talk about themselves when in fact in front of them that brain in front of you doesn't care about you, it cares about itself. So you have to make that, and I know it's a very difficult thing to do because we want always to talk about ourselves. Use the you language from now on. When you write an email, translate it in the you language. Start with emails because writing slows down the process because you use your neocortex, your rational brain, which is 200 times slower than the primal brain. So do that in all your emails. Try it. Then
I
you can try your
absolutely love
phone
that.
calls.
I absolutely love that. And what you're, I mean, if you, I think most people know this, they just don't realize that people want to talk about themselves, which is what you're saying. People, if if you're at a party and someone says, hi, how are you do, what you do, and you simply answer, well, I do this. Hold on, but tell me a little bit about yourself. They don't care about you. They just want to talk about themselves. And if you
Yeah,
use this reality in sales, in business, it becomes a superpower. And in the emails, that's such a great, I never thought about that, but it's such a great something that I love giving something people that they can take home today. And think about that. What you're basically saying is speak to me in benefits. Don't speak to me in you. Speak to me in benefits. And when you speak to someone in benefits, well, a benefit is addressing everything for their value, for their benefit, not your own. And
Yeah,
it's a trained skill, but you can start with emails. And I
yeah.
absolutely love that.
And
All right.
again, keep in mind, their brain shouts at you, make me great. Period.
I love that. I love that. Make me great. I love that. I absolutely love that. And you know what? When you make people great, people want to do business with you. They want to hang out with you. They want to be your friend. They want to date
Exactly.
you. Man,
Precisely.
absolutely. All right. I love this. How do we get others plugged into you? Tell us, what are your resources? How do we connect with you? How do you reach out? Where do you want them to go? What's the action step that you need them to take to learn a little bit more about what you do and how you can help them?
Well, it's easy to get hold of me on my website, which is happy-brains.com. And you can also link with me on LinkedIn, Thomas Trautmann, Happy Brains. So I'm the bald guy with the brain behind me. So it should be easy to find.
Awesome, awesome. Well, one more, one more rock star in what in his field and what we have for you in Ask Don't Tell. Uh, Hope that you enjoyed the show, that it's impacted you, that you have something to take home today. And I will see you next time at Ask Don't Tell. You can connect with us at OscarSubrats.com, closingintelligence.com, or just reach out to us anytime you want. Have a great day, everyone, and thank you for listening to the show. See you next time.
Bye
Stay
bye.
on, stay on for a few minutes.